Yesterday I watched way too much Demon Slayer, and now that it's my new personality for this week, I want to make a katana. More precisely, Tanjiro's Nishirin blade, or the one from the last season. Now I want to try and keep the methods as simple as possible, so that you can do this too at home. I know exactly who you are, sitting there on your bedroom floor with your energy drinks and your craft materials. This is for you. I also made a blueprint for this one, and it's pretty straightforward because, it's just a sword. But if you don't want to make it yourself, you can find them on our Patreon, just like all our previous and upcoming blueprints as well. I cut out the blade part of my blueprint first, 2 times out of 7mm ultra high density foam. Other densities would work too, but in my opinion ultra high density works the best for props because it just feels so sturdy. 5mm is also fine for a katana, but I'm going for 7 because the rod I will be using is a bit thicker. Anyway, I draw a line where I want my slit to be. I carve this out using a Dremel. I press it down firmly and then just follow the line. It doesn't matter if it's ugly on the inside, it's the outside that counts in this case. By the way, my slit isn't perfectly in the middle because I will be sanding this blade later on to give it an edge, so I need this rod to be at the thickest part of the blade. Normally, when making any prop, you could use this, a fiberglass rod. And it's almost unbreakable, but my blade is curved and a fiberglass rod is straight. These things exist now. It's a new type of rod to make props with. But plot twist, you could shape it. Or at least I hope so. I'm trying it out in this video. I'm calling it a Shaperod. It's pretty much a rod, like a fiberglass rod, but it's not fiberglass, it's PVC, and therefore you can shape it with heat and it will keep its shape. So, if this works, this would be perfect to make a katana, in my case, or like a bow or something. So, shape the rod, insert the rod, and then glue the 2 sides together with contact glue. I'm also having it stick out for where the handle will be. I'm making every piece separate to then glue it together at the end. Now I am a very happy man because it turned out it works. As you can see, it is pretty sturdy. Of course, not as sturdy as a fiberglass rod, but we can shape it. Now it just follows the line of the katana, which is great. This rod is keeping everything together way better than I am. The handle part has the same technique as before with the blade, but this time I'm stacking 4 layers of 7mm foam instead of 2 and make a slit again to insert the rod. So now I have a flat handle and a blade part, but we gotta make it look a bit less Roblox, so I'm gonna sand this blade and handle into oblivion. Before going at it, you can cut off some pieces using a sharp knife, sparing you some Dremel work and a foam lung. When sanding, I always make sure to Dremel away from me for the best result. It's also just safer. Left-handed people will have the same story, but opposite, I guess. After dremeling, I had to sand it by hand with all types of sanding paper to make it baby smooth. This step is just really important for the best results later on, especially with a blade. Believe me when I say that paint will not hide your sand lines. Anyway, it's 10 seconds for you, but like a full day for me. Oh yeah, I also use like 2mm foam to add the parts where you see it sticking out on the blade. Yeah, that part. The blade also has some detail going on, so I add this with a 1mm UHD foam because I want this to be subtle. Last thing to make is Rengoku's tsuba. I just grabbed some 7mm UHD foam again and cut out the shape. It's not an easy shape, so there's a good chance that, like me, you're gonna fuck this up. So, best use your Dremel again to clean it up. You can also see some extra detail on the tsuba, and I'm gonna add that with some 2mm foam and then just clean it up again. Alright, so now that we finished our foam build, we have reached the point of priming and painting. Normally I would recommend to use an airbrush because, especially for a katana, you want it to be smooth and shiny. However, I am well aware that most people don't have that at home. So I am going to paint it by hand as well using Cospaint. But of course, before we can paint, we have to prime. And I'm going to use 2 primers. I'm going to use like 1 or 2 layers of Plastidip and then 2 or 3 layers of Cospaint on top of that. You don't have to do this, by the way. You can just use either one, but I'm gonna combine them and see what happens. So after doing like one layer of Plastidip, I started adding some Cospaint primer. You can just do this by hand with a brush or a sponge. However, it is also possible to use it with a spray gun. Thin down of course with some water. You don't have to, but you can. Alright, so I know I said that I was gonna do like one layer of Plastidip and 2 layers of Cospaint. And I did 4 layers of Cospaint. Not because it needed it, it was just because I can, I guess. I did 2 layers and I was like, I can just do a 3rd one. And I did a 4th one. So as you can see, if you want something to be shiny when working with foam, Cospaint does the job pretty well. To paint it, you could of course use an airbrush, as I would, but I want to keep this video beginner friendly as possible, and most people don't have an airbrush and therefore I don't have an airbrush in this video. And honestly, the metallic Cospaint have some amazing pigments, so I think for this build it's gonna look sick either way. I just applied all the metallic Cospaints using a brush and a sponge. 2 layers usually do the job. In pretty much any video I ever did on this channel, I ended up using a Satain Lukas spray after painting. And I'm gonna do it again, because it's just good stuff. Not only does it seal your paintwork, it also just makes it look a bit better and especially more shiny. And that's what we need. And then when I was done with every separate piece, I could finally put everything together just using some super glue. I also just want to say that I'm really happy with the Shaperod. It holds up pretty well and it feels really solid, so I will probably use this more in the future. Then finally, for the handle wrapping part, you can watch me watch a tutorial on how to do it. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I'll just leave a link in the description. Anyway, now that we finished our new studio, we can finally start making more videos again. Of course, all materials used will be listed in the description down below. I'm Skyshark and I will see you in the next one.